exciting.
Never done it before.
Wait, that's amazing. Sometimes a fresh perspective is a good thing.
Yeah, well, we tried to get my stepson to play baseball. He liked it, he was kind of bored.
Okay.
But their mom soccer. And we missed the deadline to register so we could play with his friends from school. He finally was like, oh, I'll play
Yeah.
with my friends. So we called
Yeah.
the big guy. He goes, well, the only way that you can get in now is if you volunteer to coach a team. I'm like,
Hey, they At this time, I'd like to call the special meeting of City Council in order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, council and members of public. And with our special meeting, I'd like to begin with having Clerk Domestic please call roll.
Schumate?
Here.
Cox?
Here.
McNabb? Here. Molnar?
Here.
Valentine? Walden?
Here.
Wood? Here.
Katie, would you like a motion to excuse Councilman Valentine?
Yes, please.
Council, can we get a motion to excuse Councilman Valentine?
Patrick Valentine.
Motion by McNabb, is there a second? Second by Walden. Any discussion? Clerk Domestic, please call roll.
Cox?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Molnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes.
Walden?
Yes.
Wood? Yes.
Great. Now with a quorum, we'd love to open up with our first item here after roll, which is public comment. Is there any members of public that wish to address council this evening before we get started with the planned agenda item? We are not having any public comment at this point. We will have another public comment section after our agenda topic. So what a great segue to our agenda topic, which is the city administrator position with Double Hall Solutions. Nate, you have council here and ready, willing, and able to dive into that session, so I'll give you the floor. Make sure that light's green for us.
Yes, it is green, and I think we tested it. Can you guys hear me okay off to the side? Because I'm going to try and do a little bit of this.
That's
So,
great.
thank you for having us here to help you with your administrative search. Again, Nate Geinzer, Double Hall Solutions. I've been local government for about 20 years. The last 4 of those years, I've been focusing on consulting. Executive search is just one of those services that we provide. You all had reached out about a month or so ago to ask for a little bit of a unique scope of work to support your search process. I know there's been a little bit of history here. We've been through a number of administrators over the last handful of years. I've had a chance to talk with 6 of you, the 6 of you that are here, about what you're individually looking for. We're going to take that and we're going to have a slightly different conversation this evening that I'm going to grab some notes on. Just to walk you through what I'm hoping to do tonight is I want to give you a few perspectives on the search itself. Walk you through, not in great detail because I know you've all talked about it, but what you can expect from me as far as search support, when you're going to hear from me, updates, things of that. Make sure you don't have any questions about the search before we get rolling. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the job market itself, but also some of the interesting things that we've seen in some of our recruitments that we may or may not want to be open to. Definitely I want to talk about roles a little bit. Preparing for my meeting tonight, you have some conflicting language in your charter and your ordinances that we need to talk about, just so that I can be prepared to talk with candidates as we go. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to start identifying who your manager is. I'm not a very good drawer, but we are going to draw your city manager. Don't worry, it's just a stick figure with a bunch of words around it. And then we'll close out with, again, what you can kind of expect from me going forward. So with that, just a little bit, well, before we go, anybody have any other questions about me before we go? Good. Okay, so just to let you know what's going on in the city manager world today. This field of candidates is not what it was like when I first entered the profession. You had a lot more density in experienced candidates. You had a lot more movement. You had a lot more freedom of people looking to basically take step to step from early career to now I'm ready for my larger city, now I'm ready for the next city. That's really kind of slowed down for a number of different reasons. First and foremost, and part of the reason I asked for you to have an item on your regular agenda tonight is salaries. Salaries have been moving rapidly over the last 2-3 years. I honestly can't even believe how quickly they've evolved. People that run in the same circles as I do, we always knew it was coming. Maybe that's not going to work. We always knew it was going to be coming eventually, but I don't know if it was COVID or incivility, people leaving the profession. It's probably a combination of a lot of different things. But that's something that we need to talk through tonight, especially having looked at the posting that was put out there. We need to have a salary range on there. We never advise a candidate or a client to not put a salary range there. I know specifically candidates who will not apply for a job if it does not have salary range. So we're going to talk about a couple things tonight because I'm going to be reposting this position just a short little time, 7-10 days, somewhere in there. We want to try to make sure we didn't miss anybody. Also don't want to create any liability for you all or for us with how we're approaching this search. And we're also going to try and tell a little bit more of a story about what you're looking for, and that's partly why we're here tonight. Who is this candidate that you're looking for? What are the challenges you want them to address? What are the opportunities that are here? What's going to get people excited to apply? Some of the things that we're missing that maybe we can get a little bit more attention. And then lastly, one of the things you had asked me to do is try to reach out to folks that might have the skill sets that could come into this community and address the challenges and opportunities that everybody has kind of outlined to me. And I think, as will come up later, I think your biggest challenge is just the lack of stability. You can't build momentum if we're going to keep changing out that role. And that was probably one of the most common themes, used in different words, but that was probably the common theme that I've heard in all of our conversations. Something else is it's not all about money. You know, there used to be folks that I could look at in my peer groups and say, okay, they're going after the big raise or what have you, that's next city's looking. It's a lot harder to be a city manager than it was when I first entered this profession. And so stability, a lot of times, can trump wages. So a candidate, if they're in a very stable environment and they're paid a fair wage, they're not going to get up and jump to move to another community for a couple bucks more. That's just commonality. There's too much risk, especially when you start putting spouses, families, kids, aging parents, all of those things into the mix. They're going to take stability over a small raise. Wake up. The housing market. This is probably a no-brainer, especially in a community like this. You're a stone's throw away from the water. My guess is you have pretty high property values here. It's a lot harder to pick up and move your family. We're not seeing, unless there's somebody that's specifically looking to come to Michigan or they're specifically looking for a new place to establish their family, folks are not picking up and moving for a job. Again, very different before, when you could sell a house easily and buy a house easily. That is not the world that we are living in right now. And then you also have, obviously, two-person working households. There's only so much room that you're able to move from within. But one of the things that's been really interesting in these searches that we've been doing is we're finding some very interesting candidates that come from what I would say is public sector adjacent organizations. The search that we just did in Whitehall, the person that they selected was a retired Coast Guard officer. I can't remember his exact rank, but he was up there, ran multiple bases, large operations, a lot of very similar duties that are required at the municipal level. A gentleman that we interviewed in the city of Dundee was hired for a position in Northfield Township. Again, a retired Army officer. His job was essentially the city manager of the base that he ran. He was responsible for all of the different operational divisions of that base. We've also been seeing some more state, federal, higher level management. We've seen some school interest groups like that. So for some communities, that might be an avenue for a leadership role. I know for a fact, based on our conversations, there is concern about having a candidate without municipal experience. That's a bridge we can cross as we get down the road. There are ways to augment that if you have the right person. And ultimately, take it or leave it. Based on what I've heard so far, what you need most is the person with the right person. We can help them through, we can connect them with people, whomever, to get you through the heavy lifts and the projects you have. But you need someone who's gonna have the grit, the fortitude, the ability that's gonna be able to weather that position and move that position forward. So that's something that we'll be looking for as we go through and we vet these candidates. I know there is potentially a little concern about cost. What's the cost of the city manager? I know I provided you kind of a glimpse at the market out there right now. But one thing I would encourage you to consider, especially when you get taxpayer questions, is the costs of the turnover that you've had. I don't know what the number is. It's not my business, but there's a cost there. There's opportunity costs. What are the costs or the opportunities or the financial resources that have been lost by having instability in that role? What are the grants that have been missed out on? What are the projects that have fallen behind? What are the things that have been missed? There's costs there. And to try to do this to save on costs could actually end up costing you more down the road. So that's a policy decision that the council's going to need to have tonight as they're considering what is an appropriate salary range for this job. I know one thing I want to get some clarity on, because it sounds like you've made some changes. The DPW role is no longer part of the city administrator role. Is that correct? Is that
We hired a part-time individual right here,
this
John.
gentleman right there?
The vision for him was to have oversight on some of the work flow for the DPW department and to serve as kind of a project manager and a quarterback for all of our projects.
So we're not hiring for a city manager, or excuse me, city minister / DPW director. Is that correct?
I think we need to stick to our charter language, which I know you brought up today, but
Yep.
John is serving in that capacity, would ultimately report to the
Okay.
city administrator in that capacity, but council, please feel free to add any thoughts you might have.
Yeah, from my perspective, with John taking the DPW director role, that removes the necessity from having a new city administrator be that, although our city administrator ordinance does require that department reports to him or her.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that we've satisfied that, and we don't have to ask the next city administrator to also look at the day-to-day responsibilities of the DPW on a daily basis.
And are we able to drop the request for an S2? Has that been taken care of, or is that still a need?
I think we want to find a path to internally fulfill that. Right now, we
Okay.
have interim coverage in that lane.
Okay.
So it's not a hard requirement, but
Okay.
we have an appetite to internalize that eventually for financial reasons and operational reasons.
Got it. All right, that's good to know. I can tell you, one of the other areas besides the financial losses, when communities get into this cycle of where we've had, whether you want to call it a revolving door, whether you want to call it, we just haven't had the right fit, whatever you want to call it, that reputation sticks. And it takes some time to get that taken care of. Sometimes that's going to keep people from applying. Sometimes people are going to apply, but they're going to wait until they get into the process before they really make a decision. Thankfully, we had a similar type of situation in the city of Dundee. The manager that went in there wanted that position, wanted to move his family down there. This was one of the rare, it was one of those rare things, I'm telling you, that doesn't happen. Well, it did happen down the road, but his commitment to that council was, I'm gonna help you get this figured out. This is not a stepping stone for me. This is something where I wanna be longer term. I'm getting the impression from some of the conversations we've had, and this might come up later, you're looking for something similar to that. You want someone that's gonna come in here, level set, get things working in the direction that they need to go, and stick around for a little while and bring some stability. That's basically what I've heard so far. One of the areas that has me a little concerned and why I wanna shift what I normally do in a discussion like this is the roles of the administrator in the council. Your charter has conflicting language in how the city is said by charter to operate versus how the ordinance for the city administrator is said to operate. So a number of areas in there talks about, so the first thing I found that was interesting is the city administrator is not anywhere in the charter. Most of the department heads are. And the charter says the department heads, I'm just summarizing this, report to the mayor and the council. Meanwhile, in your ordinance that sets up the city administrator, it says they run the administrative day-to-day and what have you. And they're responsible to overseeing the administrative work of the city. That creates a conflict for a city manager. I don't know if that's hurt your ability to recruit, if they've even picked up on that or not, but that's definitely something that we're gonna wanna talk through when you're thinking about trying to support longevity. Because for example, let's say I was in here as city manager and I said, John, we need to get our, just do a lame example, we need to have our Payzer rating updated. I want you to put together a report to council, to get the engineer, to give us a number on updating our Payzer ratings. And then John starts working on that, and I'm gonna pick on Justice for a second. Justice says, well, what the heck? We don't need to spend the money on that. John needs to be over here doing this. John, don't do that report. You need to be over here. Based on how your charter reads, I've read it twice. I can read it a third time, but based on how the charter reads, John reports to the mayor and council. Now, Justice does not speak for council, right? But a department director, when they're getting some feedback from a council member, there's always going to be a little bit of a hesitation. But if I'm your manager and I bring a report in, and the mayor and the council want something different and it wasn't necessarily decided at this body, it's just an opportunity for conflict. And if we're trying to bring some stability, we want to try to address that. I don't know if you guys have ever talked about updating your charter. It's something you may want to look at, especially if we want to continue to bolster the council manager form here, especially if we want to try to attract and retain a professional level administrator to keep your community operating. So those are just a couple things I wanted to point out. They're not deal breakers. They're not anything that's going to completely scare anybody away, but those are going to be things that might catch somebody's attention. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, just commentary from my end. I know that in our charter it gives the ability to create other department head positions as necessary for the functionality of the city, and that's presumably what language from the charter was utilized when the city administrator
Correct.
position was created, but via ordinance.
Yep.
Spot on.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably speak for the whole group up here in that we would like a model where the city administrator is the day-to-day CEO of this operation, ultimately responsible to council, the 7 members that are voting here to us.
So let's go there next. But the one thing I want you to keep in mind is what we come up with here today from this council, that's this council. The next council may think of something completely different. So again, thinking about stability, these are just things, seeds I wanted to plant in your mind, so you guys kind of had an idea of what could potentially continue this revolution in the administrator role. Any other questions before we?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah.
If we decide to go down that path of addressing our charter to consider an amendment, I understand that to be a vote of the public at an election. Is that something that you have experience guiding people through, or is there referrals that you would put us in touch with that could come up with cost, timelines, et cetera?
100%. Have I done it personally? No. Do I work with people who have? Yes. And it's not something you take lightly. Especially when I was looking at different aspects of your charter, there's definitely some things that sound like they might be completely irrelevant now. So it's probably not something you're just going to look at one section in the charter. You're probably going to take it doesn't have to be a whole charter review, but usually there's citizens involvement, there's going to be obviously your attorneys involved, there's going to be extensive communications required with your community. I mean, it's not something that we're going to walk out of this door today and Councilmember Molnar is going to say, okay, let's change this charter and get moving. It's something that you would want to have multiple conversations with this group about and start mapping out the pros and the cons, what can be addressed through ordinance, what's not, what has state law overruled already. It's just one of those things that's probably something you want to just look at for now. Okay? So to help me talk with these candidates, I want you to tell me a little bit about the role of the mayor and council. How does it work right now, and how do you want it to work?
Can you be more specific, please?
So, when we talk about the operations of a city, right? The reason I'm asking these questions is just some of these, some of the language, I want to make sure if I talk with a candidate that sees this language and they're like, ugh, I don't know. I want to make sure I can address that. When we're talking about, I'm concerned, Nate, because they've had 4 city managers in 2 years, or whatever the number is. I want to be able to tell them, look, I've talked with this council, I know where they're trying to get you, or get to, in this community. I'm trying to, as a executive recruiter, not only am I trying to find you the right person, I'm also trying to sell the community. I'm trying to sell the collaboration with the council. If there are things out there that, believe me, I've worked in more difficult communities, that I need to offset that's gonna make a candidate nervous, this is what I'm trying to get to, is learning who you all are as an elected body. Does that help provide some clarification?
Yes and no. Yes, for me, I understand the setting that you're painting for us. I guess my specific is what feedback would you like to hear from us with respect to that?
So the way I look at this, which again is a little bit different here based on the charter, but this body is the policy arm. The administrator and the staff is who is tasked to implement that. So tell me a little bit about how you guys function and look at policy. How do you review that policy? Are you working under a set of strategic goals?
Yeah.
Again, we're not going to spend a ton of time here. I'm just looking for like the highlights.
I think just a couple thoughts to kick off. I think you're spot on the policy arm, and it relates to the earlier discussion around the importance of having a day-to-day CEO that can oversee the office and the operational aspects of that policy. I think for our council, a couple comments from me. I think one, we have a good set of diverse backgrounds and expertise, which I think is very advantageous for the different topics that we've inherited as an administration, from the infrastructure to the purchasing policies and operations to people, leadership, and oversight. So I think that good backgrounds. I think from a priorities perspective, the first 100 days, we set goals. Many of us were brand new to municipal space.
This is 100 days post-election?
Yeah, so November of 2023, when we came together, we set a first 100-day set of goals. Then we segued those first 100-day goals to the broader strategic pillars, which are kind of our more like mid to long-term priorities. And I'm just proud of the group here because I think we've done a really good job of tracking those and delivering against those. And I have it in my packet every time we meet as council, and I kind of bold areas that are progressing, but it's a good inventory of where our North Stars are and the tactics below them. So Nate, if you haven't seen that already, we'll make sure you have a copy of that. But there's pillars, and each pillar has tactical priorities against them. It allows us to really track our progress or lack thereof. So I think it was good to like set directional goals. I think, speaking from my own personal perspective, I think many of us ran because we saw opportunities to do better. And so a lot of our work has been, one, learning the municipal landscape. None of us, or many of us, were not familiar with any parliamentary procedure, the rules of government. We operate different corporate settings or other private business settings. So that was a lot of on-ramp of learning there. And I think the second thing, Nate, was the amount of inventory we started to take. To me, I never would have thought the volume was going to be that large.
Tell me more about that.
I mean, just I think every area we dissected, we found opportunity for improvement. And I don't think any of us were expecting the level of volume of the tactics on the right side of your whiteboard there under these pillars. And I think, well over a year and a half in, right now approaching our 2-year mark in November, every day it seems we're still finding more opportunities that need to be addressed. So I think the volume was intense, more intense than I thought it was going to be from areas of need for improvement. But I think the good part is you tie that to our expertise. I think we've leverage different expertise across this chambers to help lean in and solve them. It's an immense volume. I think the last thing I'll say that I want to hear from the council peers is you're spot on the city administrator front. We inherited one city administrator that was already in position. That individual resigned. Then we had a window where we were doing our searches, and we ended up having an interim manager for a period of time. But there was no definitive individual in that role. Then we made our last hire, and that was a 6-month probation period that resulted in the departure of that individual. So we've had 2 formal city administrators, quote unquote, in position. One we inherited, one we hired together. But we've had periods of gap of no coverage. I think we've done our best to divide and conquer, but I think if you refer back to my earlier commentary, I think the volume has been a lot on the team. And that's not only from council, but it's from our department heads. It's from all the individuals that are part of the operation. It's intense from a volume perspective. And I can imagine, that's difficult when you're trying to get structure and stability, but you're not confident in the individual you've found to be that day-to-day CEO. And it trickles all aspects. You need a strong leader there that's the clear point of direction for the staff. You need somebody that's there to prioritize and project manage. You need somebody there to deliver information to council as policymakers. And lacking that structure and stability has put a tremendous strain, I think, on humans to deliver against that. So I think that's my very simple synopsis of what we've experienced together. Sure, we've had our challenges, but I think 99.9% of the things we've done together, we've been aligned on. I think the beauty of government is you have 7 members voting, and there's going to be creative conflict, and we should disagree. I think our discussion and debate has been higher than any previous set of individuals sitting in the seat, which I love because it's forcing that dialogue. But I think those are my themes I'd like to lay out.
Anybody have anything they want to add on the elected side, council side?
So I guess, again, to clarify, are you looking for what we think our responsibilities or our roles are within these respective classifications?
To an extent, I guess, so I don't need the details, right? But we're trying to set you guys up for a new relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I'm talking roles here, I'm talking on your role, your collective role in that relationship, in that ability to to operate the community, to lead forward through policy, to give the staff, the administrator, the tools that they need in order to execute the policies that you expect from them.
So from my perspective, I think that we as the elected folks up here have all spent much more time trying to fill the gaps in administration. Seeing all the, to follow what the mayor said, some of the areas that some of us have knowledge on or experience on in our careers, we've seen those gaps here and use, for example, the purchasing policy. We have a purchasing policy in our charter, we have one in the ordinances, but administratively, we simply just weren't following it. And not even close. We really weren't even making much of an effort to follow it. So it's been a very much hands-on approach to try and get this to stick. But I don't see any of us wanting to continue to try and fill that role. That wasn't something that we really thought. I don't think, from my perspective, I didn't think that we would have to absorb that role any longer than the first few weeks. So that's certainly a role of the day-to-day administration that should be handled underneath the city administrator's responsibilities and allow us to free up our time to spend more time communicating with our fellow residents about things that are important to them, and then bringing them back here to our meetings, to our communications amongst our colleagues. That's really where I think a lion's share of our time should be spent, is communicating with our neighbors, and then bringing those issues to the forefront, be it at our meetings or be it in our communications upcoming to our meetings with the proper department head channels, and handling them from a policy standpoint as necessary. We found ourselves much more functionally assisting in those avenues that I don't think we want to continue.
100%.
It's good to know. Good to know. Before we go on and talk a little more about the city administrator, this is for my own personal curiosity. You talked about volume, and I spelt it wrong. I know that. Just ignore it. I hate writing in front of people because I always screw something up,
You're good.
and I'm not the greatest speller without spell check. But the volume, and I heard about this a lot from staff today. First off, I really enjoyed your staff. We had some great conversations. You've got some great people here that want to do the right things.
Yeah, we do.
But when you talk about volume, how much do you think volume has played into this, this cycle that you've had over the last handful of years? Does that have anything to do with it, or is it just been a fit issue?
I think, speaking personally, I'd love to hear from Dorothy, for example, because you've seen the volume of the observations we've uncovered when we've been very intentionally taking inventory and bringing, to Rob and others' points, business perspectives and process perspectives that we're used to in our day-to-day jobs that were absent here. I think the volume has been more than we would expect. And by definition, then you throw in the lack of a city administrator who would be responsible for the operationalization of said volume, the oversight of the people. Then you put in the human element of individuals who are used to the previous systems, who are now going through a significant change curve, all of which is for the greater good, beneficial, process, procedure, accountability, tactical delivery, but a volume that probably nobody was used to, right? So there's the human element, and then there's the missing city administrator elements, all of which all of us, elected officials and department heads and the personnel, have been shouldering that burden individually. So the lack of a project manager, day-to-day CEO, from both a people and a project management perspective, has been an immense undertaking, and it puts a human toll on the equation as well. But I'd love to hear anybody else's perspective. That's my vantage point on that. Public comment is for later, if that's okay. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the administrator. We'll get into this in a little more detail here in a minute, so if it gets repetitive, I apologize.
Scott, can I interrupt
Yes,
for a minute?
please. I guess I should let the mayor say that.
Oh, no,
me,
we're not.
but-
We're
we
not
okay?
like that.
Yeah. Before you go any further, I'm conflicted. Is the city administrator, as it stands now, the CEO of the way you read the charter and the ordinance?
No, the CEO, and this is not uncommon across most charters. The CEO, chief executive, is typically the mayor, but the chief administrative officer is typically the city manager. Now, different communities have different definitions on what that means. Some of that's been clarified in policies and some not elsewhere. A CEO of a large company may have very little to do with the day-to-day operations of that company. They may delegate that to a CAO, and the CEO is more responsible to the board of directors and what have you. So there is going to be a little bit of a nuance there where the language gets a little bit messy is when the department directors are reporting to the mayor and the council, whereas you have a city administrator who's responsible for administering the community or the operation that relies on giving direction to those department directors. That's where it gets a little bit.
Does it get sticky because the way it's written, the charter trumps the ordinance?
Correct.
And
Just
right-
like statutory or state
Precisely.
law trumps the charter, the
If that
charter
was,
trumps
if that was
ordinance.
purposely put in place that way, what does that give the power to the mayor to do?
Well, the way I read it, and I'm not this guy,
No, I know,
So,
just as a general
it
conversation.
says mayor and council.
Yeah.
So the way I read that as this body. And so, the way your charter seems to be fairly clear that the mayor is a part of this group. It's not like some of the other mayors, where they might have a veto, or they might have other authorities. What I did find that's unique is it's your budget. Where I came from in Brighton, it was the city manager's budget. The city manager was responsible for bringing the draft budget. Here, it's the mayor. So there are some nuances. It's just a unique charter that I hadn't seen before.
Who is, in our setting right now, who is the immediate boss supervisor of a city administrator?
Of the city administrator, it's this body. That's the way I read it.
So it's not independent, one party or another, right? Okay.
Can I jump in on that for
Yeah.
1 second? And if I'm writing an operating agreement, which is what the charter essentially is, like what the way an operating agreement would be to a incorporated entity, the operating agreement would be the charter. You would define the roles of a CFO, a CAO, CEO, all these different roles would be defined within the operating agreement. Because you can't, because in some entities, a CFO may handle a lion's share of administration, whereas another entity, a CEO, might handle a lion's share of an operation, or an entity larger might have a COO that handles all of that. It just depends on what is defined, because every scenario is going to be different.
More or less, yes. You have way more department directors in your charter than what I've seen in most others.
Yeah.
Usually it's, and even I'm surprised I don't know if communities are still keeping the assessor in there, but typically it's the city administrator, the city attorney, clerk treasurer. Clerk treasurer, I've seen it where the council has to confirm, but it's still the manager that has to supervise. Here you've got, those are elected positions. It's just different. It's just a different charter than what I've seen before.
Yeah, and we have a scenario where our charter gives us an engineer as the head of the building department and is also the head of DPW, I believe, is the way our charter reads as the city engineer. Well, we bring the city engineer for a professional consulting only for civil engineering. We don't utilize the chartered responsibilities of that professional vendor, even though by title they are the engineer. We don't utilize them for all of their chartered responsibilities. We divide them up alternatively out of practice that's been ongoing for years. It's one of the things that I've said we've got to address, and maybe that's something that if we decide to address our charter, we can look at that as well. Where I was going with the title, the acronyms, is that just because something is just a title a title without a definition doesn't carry much. We can't assume a definition, I don't think. And then lastly, for construction of prevailing legal authority, if there is a ordinance that is in conflict with a charter, I think there has to be some type of mechanism that occurs to where that ordinance is done away with, as opposed to it just being there, staying there, and holding no authority.
Yeah, you would probably just clean that up. There is authority in the ordinance, because I don't remember who said it, but the charter allows you to create a department. You created a department of the city administrator. I was just pointing out, it's unique to not see that role right in the charter. When you talked about having a title with no definitions, again, there's a lot of different ways charters are written, but in where I came from, if it said the clerk, it would lay out a few duties, but the actual structure is her job description.
Yeah.
That's where it's all laid out. That's where it's all defined is, so administrator, let's say administrator hires an assistant city manager. The actual definition of what that person does is in their job description. That's where you're gonna find that level of detail. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, so back on the administrator for a minute, because Katie gave me a goal, and I'm gonna meet that goal. So,
Yes.
role of the city administrator. What do you want this to look like? How do you want it to work? What are your expectations as a group? I've heard everybody's individual, but I want to hear it as a group.
I think we've all aligned that we want it to be the day-to-day leader of the operation, responsible to mayor and council, as you've highlighted, right? So we want a in-office leader who is overseeing departments and translating policymakers' direction to action and keeping two-way communication every step of the way, elevating issues, giving us updates on the progress or lack thereof, elevating resource needs.
Definitely, the elevating resource needs is a critical function of the position, since the holders of the purse are here.
100%.
And communication.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big time.
100%.
And the independence from politics, I think is hugely important, that as turnover occurs naturally in these positions, they're not, the political separation allows us, I think, to separate emotion from our operation, if that makes sense.
Sure does.
Perfect sense.
What was that last piece? I didn't hear that.
He's saying perfect sense. He was just validating that statement.
God.
Perfect sense.
Anybody have anything else they want to add here?
I mean, strong communicator, assertive accountability, enforcer.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for bringing up that word. Let's hold that and come back to it.
Somebody who leans into critical conversations versus shies away from them.
I think there's a book on that.
Probably several.
What was that?
So there's probably several.
All right, so I want to, before we move on here, I want to come back to that word accountability.
Nate, can you add on there, knowledge of internal controls?
Internal controls.
Like it.
Because that's usually what our tick has been right now on the uptick of the volume that we're all experiencing.
Yeah.
The lack of the internal controls and the oversight that we've all seen a void here.
Are you talking beyond finance?
Finance, human resource,
Okay, all right.
the whole 9 yards.
Okay. I want to talk about accountability for a second here. I've heard this from you all, I've also heard it from staff. What does accountability mean? What is it that you're looking for that would address this interest in accountability?
Timelines, getting something completed. We have a operational, I forget what it's called, but a procedural book from council here that says the department head should accomplish or have measurable accomplishment on a particular resolution within 2 weeks from the directive. But the accountability would be to both keep track of that directive and give us an update 2 weeks later as to what progress has been made. If none, take responsibility for it and give us a timeline updated timeline of if you need something from us, resource-wise, we can allocate that if necessary. And otherwise, constant feedback, communication.
Yeah, I agree. I think enforcing policy, procedure, and job responsibility. I mean, like those three things are like literally the most core fundamental of what we require, because historical deficiencies there have been massive. Now we're coming out of a phase of an absence of policy and procedure to now we have policies and procedures. But we need somebody that's going to hold those individuals accountable to delivering against them. And for individuals they oversee, hold people accountable for performing against their job responsibilities. And those three things historically were not present, and we need somebody to come in and do that.
And
Have anything they want to add?
I was gonna say, and also follow them themselves, because if they aren't following these procedures themselves, how does it look to the
100%.
rest of us?
Amy, can I call that lead by example?
Yes.
Precisely. And it's just like anything, the absence of that enforcement is toxic because it ripples across the culture, right? Individuals that are going above and beyond their job duties are watching bad behavior not be held accountable. And it's a toxic element of any organization. And we've done a lot to try and lean and address it, but with decades of absence of paperwork and accountability, it's a change curve.
Last call, we are going to continue to talk about the administrator, but in a different way. Anybody have anything else they want to add here? Okay, I'm gonna.
Katie, anything you want to add? I know you and Amy have seen. Dorothy, anything on your perspective?
Okay.
did you give him?
All right, there's your city manager. I can't draw it any better than that. That's all you get
Got
from me.
beat.
All right. So we're going to talk about this individual from a few different aspects. And the first part I want to talk about is leadership. And mayor and council, if you're good with it, I would love if the staff that are in here have the ability to participate in this. Is that okay with you guys?
Please.
All right. So leadership, describe it. This person walks in the door. How are they leading the organization? How are they leading council? How are they leading the staff? How are they leading the community? And yes, leading is going to be different, have different definitions in each of those different roles, but describe it to me. Give me some adjectives.
The very first thing that I think of is polite and respectful.
Love.
What else?
Clear and assertive.
Organized.
Punctual.
Like it.
Tell me about punctual. What's that mean?
Time is valuable. When meetings are to be held, they should be constructive and held in a timely manner. So punctual means being efficient.
With agendas
In minutes.
in minutes, yeah. We've all experienced the lack of that.
Yeah.
Strong communicator,
What was that? Calm communicator?
strong communicator.
Calm, too.
Yeah.
Strong and calm.
I think present is a word that comes to mind too, like present and supportive, like really understanding the different lanes and day-to-day nuances of what people go through as human beings so that you can better tailor your position to support that.
Empathic,
Yeah, I think it's a good way to put
Empathic,
it.
is that what I just heard?
yeah.
'Cause I think it's like so critical to build rapport. I mean, we've watched with individuals in the seat, like, once the equity curve is shifted to the negative, it's hard to build that equity back, right? So like coming in and taking inventory and leading with those principles is critical, because when that energy shifts, it has not been good for the operation.
Any others that jump out?
Reliable.
Yeah.
Last call on this one.
Dorothy, what do you think?
Just a question. So you're talking right now of the city administrator, this is what we want of the city administrator? Okay,
When you
because,
when you come in to talk with the city administrator, what kind of leadership do you want them to be demonstrating to you?
yes, and that's what I had said before, that, that they have to be personable and really listen to the residents that are coming in here, because I've had people complain about, the past city administrators, and I just think that they should be able to, address the people, talk to the people, be aware of what your residents actually want. You know, I know the city ladies and everybody here do the best they can to answer all kinds of questions, but, you know, pretty much in the long run, I think this would be the person who should be answering these things, you know? The city ladies have their own groups of whatever they do, and they do that very well. But I think this person, he or she, whatever, needs to listen to the people that live here. We're a very small community, very attached community, and, you know, people talk a lot. You hear a lot of stuff on the streets. So at least have somebody that can straighten out some of that would be nice.
Personality is key.
Yeah.
And just kind of piggyback off that, I'll add the term approachable,
Yes,
Approachable.
like it.
as well as confident.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
All right.
And I think it's,
We're gonna use that as our transition.
that's a good one, Jess, I like that. And it's listening to understand, not to speak, because I think we've had a rigid set of individuals in that role in the past.
I wanna get that one down. So I put accessible over on this next one. I'll explain it here in a minute.
He did say approachable, but accessible.
Do you have approachable? So I want to talk about visibility. Now, when I'm using the word visibility, I'm thinking of that from two different aspects in particular. I'm talking about visibility within the organization, kind of something I heard about today with the staff. I'm also talking about visibility in and outside of the community. Describe the city manager and their level of visibility in this building, in this campus, in this organization, in this community, in this region, et cetera. It's a pretty broad question.
My opinion is they should be the most visible in all those arenas. And I know it's a really overgeneralized statement, but like they should be the face of the operation here in City Hall. They should, in many ways, be the face to our residents and responding and triaging resident inquiries and concerns. Obviously, us elected officials trying to immerse ourselves because we're here because of the residents, but as far as the day-to-day issue elevation in City Hall, right? I think they're the primary face for both of those parties. We're all elected officials that play much less of a volume role in any of those equations than this individual would be.
Good to hear. What else?
Also being visible outside of here at meetings, like association meetings or Shuva or, you know, they have the city admin meetings for
Yeah.
the area. Networking.
Can I use the word networking?
Network, yep.
100%.
I think there's room on that particular bullet point for shared responsibilities with elected officials. I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope when talk about visibility and how important it is in a management setting of personnel. If you're managing personnel and you're spending a significant portion of time outside of the office networking, that's going to reduce the effectiveness of personnel management. So when it comes to the networking with, the House of Representatives, county commissioners, the different associations that we're part of, I think there needs to be shared responsibility with some leadership exerted by the city administrator in terms of advice on the different associations and network points. But a shared responsibility so that this person can immerse themselves in the day-to-day operations and be visible to personnel and to community first and foremost.
Yeah, I like that.
Last call on visibility. All right. So relationships are a huge part of the city administrator's job. But the one I want to focus on is the relationship between the city administrator and the council and the administrator. Describe to me that relationship. How do you want it to function?
Direct communication, firm, and I think the way that when we had our half-hour one-on-one, I expressed it was not to gently massage a topic that could leave some ambiguity as to whether or not there was a possibility that this is not going to go the way you're saying it's going to go. Just be direct. There's not, the resources for there are not there, or they are there and this is gonna happen, it's gonna take 6 months. Just be direct so that we're not left with an ambiguous or with a vague consideration. Naturally, we see things through our own prism, so if we really wanna see a circumstance occur and you're saying there's a chance, there's a 1 million chance, just say there's no chance.
Right.
Yeah.
It's happening or it's not happening, or you just direct.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I would say thorough and coordinated. And what I mean by that is I think providing, like to Rob's point, clarity and firm directive or guidance, recommendations. But I think like being thorough in the information you have provided to the parties that are trying to drive policy decisions, doing your research and making sure it's organized in a way that can help inform decisions. And then, so that's the thorough piece. I think the coordinated piece is making sure you're coordinating your communication. You got 7 voting members, right? So ensuring you have communication channels established with all parties so they get everything they need to make decisions here twice a month.
Do they have anything else they want to add here?
I'd like to add like a side note to maybe pick up this conversation at a different time. But with our department heads that are contracted out, our chartered department heads, like the engineer, building department, so on and so forth, we are asking these for-profit companies to apply our charter or our ordinances to their reviews and operations here in our city, and they're going to have different levels of accountability on that. And so, with again the engineer being in charge of DPW, building department, and them not being an in-house department head to cover those scenarios, we just need to fill that gap. And I know that's not what you're asking for on this particular topic, but
No, it is, because ultimately, you are all the ones that are hiring. Even if it was the city manager's say, over a certain dollar value, it's gotta be approved by the council. When we have a contract, whether it's for an engineering service or it's a contract to pave a road, it's ultimately the administrator's job to make sure those folks are being held to the standards that we operate by. So it is a fair point under this relationship, because you need to have trust in this individual that you're going to, that they're gonna be administering those contracts per what you all approved.
right.
I would love to hear, John, can we put you on the spot at some point too, to make sure you get your perspective represented here? Because you came in from all the work you did as not in your position, but yet still so intertwined in the operation, a lot of the elements we talked about. Now you've sat here in that office for, a couple months now, and this would obviously be an individual that you'd be working very close with. So I'd love to hear your perspectives at any point during this discussion today.
Well, leadership, you gotta be willing to listen. That was a big thing, like, when I would run crews, okay? Might have my way, foreman might have his way, another foreman might have his way. Well, by the time you put all 3 together, you come up with a better plan, you know? Because I wasn't always right, but, and I wouldn't get upset with them, Plus you got patience,
Patience, yes.
Thank you.
lots of patience.
All right, last one,
Thank you.
and I bet the staff has something to say about this as well, but you all have been around for a number of years. You've seen different folks come in here with different management styles. Tell me a little bit about the management style you would like to see this person bring to the table. Because management and leadership are different things. We're all on the same page about that, right?
I like it.
Okay.
Can we start with Katie and Amy on this one?
I've got the notes from earlier too. So.
Yes. Please.
Give me a minute.
All right.
It's all right.
Amy, you
Put
got it?
on the spot.
Well, and two, you all have seen how the managers have managed.
Yeah.
And so when you think about where you work, and when you think about what you had said about what the residents expect and being able to solve issues and hear and listen to the residents, it's ultimately gonna come back to how this city administrator manages the staff to
Yeah.
deliver the results that you all are expecting.
So I know we have a defined difference between management and leadership, and this may be better for leadership, but I thought of servant leadership or servant management. I think that gets buy-in. If you are the last one to eat, you're the first one in the pit, you know, you're the one that's willing to do the dirty work. I think that people follow that and are willing to jump in after you if you set the tone.
What else?
It's kind of what I was gonna say, someone who's like willing to get into the trenches with us, who's willing to get up front, help take payments and understand different aspects.
Like it?
Proactive instead of reactive?
Great.
Like that.
You got a point, dude. That's a good one.
Someone willing to ask for help.
Who said that one?
I like it, Art.
You know, that's something, well, I don't want to digress too much because I'm on a clock here. Kay's gonna give me, Kay's gonna start giving me the look here. But we've been talking about that a lot at our Michigan Municipal Executives meetings about it's okay to ask for help. Unfortunately, there's a stigma and I'll take blame for it. I mean, especially men don't like to ask for help. Asking for help is not a weakness. It's actually a sign of leadership. All right. Last call.
I feel like Amy's got something.
I was gonna say, someone who's not fearful, because like we've had past where you just kind of like, you'll have a reactive resident at the counter, and you just see them kind of hiding in the corner, and you're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Somebody who's willing to help,
There's
and,
your back.
yeah.
I was going to say a resourceful troubleshooter and fixer.
Yeah.
Resourceful.
Somebody knows, can figure out the, we'll call it the flow or the blockage.
Yeah.
Figure out through resources, if they don't have it, how to fix it.
Yeah, I like that. I like the triage a lot. I also like, like a purposeful prioritizer, right? It goes back to the volume. It goes back to getting people an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, why this policy is important, why the downstream result will be worth it. Align with the objectives that we've already set.
So how much is this all going to cost?
Somebody who's a multitasker, I think, is probably a must in terms of management capability.
All right.
Good.
That look like your city manager or your city administrator?
We're confident you've
We have
reflected
pretty
it.
good- We have a pretty good understanding of what we're hoping for here? All right, because in my final 10 minutes or less, I want to make sure I answer all of your questions. I want to make sure you guys know what you can expect from me.
And while you're pulling that up, I know Finance Director McEwen had put a lot of thought into the salary discussion, so we'll have that on the agenda for.
Yeah, I'm going to
May.
stick around.
Cool.
I'll fix that later. Okay, so, once we have the feedback tonight on the salary range, I'm gonna start working on, I'm gonna rewrite your job posting. I'm not gonna rewrite your job description or anything like that, but we're gonna repost this for a short window. Like I said, we wanna make sure we catch everybody. We wanna make sure if, depending on what, it doesn't matter what you said as a salary, we wanna put that out there, see if that catches somebody. Plus, the market may have changed since the last time you put that up there. So we just want to go one more goal, or one more round. It's going to be a short window, 7-10 days, something like that. I want to talk with my team on that a little bit further. That's not going to slow down the process. I know what the expectation is. I've already started looking at the candidates that have applied so far. So we'll be moving a number of things here in parallel. I'm looking through my files for other candidates that may still be looking. I'll be reaching out to them directly, but I'll also be doing some other mining with some of the tools and resources we have available. And like I said, there's been a lot of change even in just the last month or so with city managers, so there may be somebody else new on the market. When when we identify those that meet minimum qualifications, and when I say minimum qualifications, I don't mean like bare minimum, I mean like minimum but start to look like this person, right? They'll be getting a questionnaire as a follow-up. It's not the same that we use for every community. These questions that I'm going to be putting forth to this manager is going to be, there might be a couple similar ones, but it's going to be specific to all of the things I've heard based on my conversations with all of you and the staff. I want to see how they are thinking through, how they would address these issues. A lot of times they're scenario. I also want to see how they communicate in writing as well. Also, it's a pretty good indicator of how serious they are in the position. I've seen candidates that put absolutely no effort in the questionnaire. That tells me they're not interested in this job, or they think that they don't have to do the work to get it. And I've also seen some that have just completely blown me away by the amount of time and effort and research they put into those answers. It tells me a lot about this individual. We'll be doing virtual interviews, which I think some of this stuff was already communicated, so I'm not going to belabor it. We do virtual interviews. We don't do those recorded ones. We don't do them over the phone. We do virtual interviews because I want to see this person. I want to see how they react. I want to see if they're comfortable. And I want to have two-way conversation with them. I don't want them just talking at a recording and I'll listen to it later. From there, as you may or may not know, under Open Meetings Act, candidates have the right to ask for confidentiality. Most times those candidates do. I will then bring kind of a narrowed down list. Usually it's about 10, 12, sometimes as high as 15 candidates. We're going to bring that forth in closed session. We'll review those candidates. I usually have them grouped in a few different ways. It's not a ranking. It's here's where we think this group aligns the most with what you're asking for. This group, you know, they're pretty strongly aligned, but they might be missing that municipal experience that you really, really wanted, but you may still want to take a look at them. In this group, we've got some pretty strong individuals, but I'm not sure they have everything there. But this is how we organize our thoughts, and then in the closed session, we work our way through that and make sure if you have any questions about these candidates, we can go through that and work through that. While all this stuff is going on, I should just point out, when we come out of that closed session, we'll invite candidates by candidate number. We don't use names at that point. That confidentiality is in place until they accept the interview. Once they accept the interview, now it's public. We will provide you, Katie, you do the communications, is that right? Yes. So we will provide you with a press release that you can use, alter, or what have you, but we'll give you, make sure you're equipped to get that out to your community. At some point in the next couple weeks, I will reach out to Amy and Katie. We'll have to figure out on the council how you want to handle this, but we'll need to start looking at dates for the interview. Do you guys have a personnel committee? Some councils do, some don't. So I'll probably send out an email and ask you all what you'd like to see in an interview process. I tend to like to do them over 2 days. It doesn't always have to be done that way. Ooh, I've got 4 minutes. But usually I like day one, usually in the afternoon. I like to get them into town. I like to work. Usually that day we spend with the staff. We're checking out operations. We're giving them a chance to interact with staff, ask questions, see around town, give them a tour. I've had the downtown has come up in a couple conversations. Let's go look at the downtown. I want them to be oriented and feel comfortable about the community and that they're going to be talking with you all about. As far as interview day, it's almost endless of the possibilities. If you wanted to do a community open house, we could do it that first night. If you want to have stakeholder roundtable, we can do something like that. Usually not conflict in a bad way, but usually where it can create a little bit of issues. Who's going to be on that stakeholder group? There's a lot of different ways we've done it. We're going to have a process with the staff. I love the idea that my April, who works with me, came up with. For Celine, they put him in a mock interview, or not interview, excuse me, department head meeting. Gave him a real scenario from a council meeting. They had to come in, debrief the staff, and work them through a thought exercise. And so again, seeing how they interact with folks. So we like to get multiple perspectives. But that information and that feedback does not come to you until after you have your one-on-one or your interviews with the candidates. The reason we do that is when you have your interview with your candidate, I want you guys to come in here fresh and open-minded. I don't want to give you somebody else's perspective on a candidate and bias your decision before the candidate even gets a chance to interview with you all. So that's what's in my head right now as far as process goes. It will come into more shape over the next 2-3 weeks. You will get interviews from me. You will get updates from me. Usually it's at key milestones. So for example, when the repost goes live, we've already put a teaser out there on our LinkedIn. You will get an update that, hey, the posting's live. Feel free to share it, tell people it's there, what have you. When it closes, I'll give you an update on the number of candidates that we have. When I'm getting ready and working on putting together the closed session packet, you will know that I'm working on that. You will know when you're going to expect that closed session packet. We will know when the date is. So in other words, you're going to be hearing from me again. If you have questions, call, text, email. I'm not always going to be able to get you right away, but I want to make sure you feel comfortable in this process. And if something comes to mind after we walk out that door today, you guys know how to get a hold of me. 1 minute early.
Did I understand correctly that we're going to address the financial implication at our next meeting?
Yes, I believe there's an agenda item on your agenda.
Understood. Thank you.
You guys good?
Nate, I just want to say I appreciate it. Good session, good discussion amongst council. Thank you for, I know from our initial conversation, you, Councilman Molnar, myself, and Treasurer Fonte, thank you for acting with a sense of parallel pathing, given our appetite to find the right person in a most efficient and effective manner. So just appreciate all that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. All right.
All right, council, any other comments on that topic? Well, with that, we'd love to open up to public comment. Wayne, I know I had asked you to respect the open session. Wayne, do you have anything you want to add now? Sorry.
I just want to know if he was aware that we have changed the fire chief, police chief, building department, that all these things have happened recently in the last couple of years in the city.
Yeah,
Just
great.
thought it was something he needed to be aware of.
Wayne, great call. Yeah, Nate, make sure you're aware, because I think we had some discussions in our interviews with internals, but we did appoint a new fire chief most recently, and a new police chief, as well as triggered some promotions within our Department of Public Safety. It's important for you to know that. And then I think a part of the strategic priorities that you'll see, if you haven't already received those, is to Wayne's point, we've taken a look at all of our professional services, and we've made some changes there.
I mean, we've changed engineers recently.
City attorney.
Parks, city attorney, building department, we've changed a lot of stuff since you guys come in, and you should be aware of all that.
No, you're spot on, Wayne. A great call.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
For the strategic pillars,
Yeah.
I'll go back and look in my email and in my files.
I'll send you an updated copy from the packet tonight.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Any other public comment?
I have a couple questions. I'm Kathy LaPointe, I live at 2987 Kingsbridge Drive. I think the gentleman's name is Nate.
Nate.
So I don't have the privilege of having the paperwork that they have, or the process. So where will you post?
Where will you post, Nate, if
Will
you
you
don't mind
post?
addressing that?
So primarily, we're going to repost it on MML. Especially because this is a slightly different search scope. I mean, if you guys want to repost it in a number of different spots, we can certainly talk about that. What my plan was to repost it to MML. That's where most folks are going to look at. But what we find to be most effective is just our personal LinkedIn pages. I put out the teaser that Gibraltar was going to be posting again. I had over 1,000 people look at it. That tends to be more effective for us. And then they will apply through us. We're actually looking at a new software for application process and stuff, but that's how I've got it laid out right now.
And when you say us, do you mean the company you represent?
Correct.
You said personally, you mean your company?
My company, so it's my personal LinkedIn, it's my company's LinkedIn that we put that out there.
Can I jump in and piggyback on that? I'm sorry. I know the MML is an insurance agency that has their arm for for this, I think, anyway, the association. Does Hanover have something similar like that in a profession, like the association side of it, where, or is there any other travelers or any other insurance companies that have?
You're talking about for city insurance,
So, yeah, the MML,
right? They've got the Meadowbrook pool.
Yeah.
If you're talking about looking at other providers for city insurance, yes, there's other providers.
no. MML is our insurance company, and some of the resources in which they provide are these posting opportunities, classes, the association efforts. Is that correct, or?
Yeah, they have a classified ads space.
Right.
That's where it would be.
Are there other insurance companies such as Travelers or Hanover? that-
No, you wouldn't go there. You'd go to like a International City County Managers Association. You might go, what we've done in a couple cases is we've posted in the Illinois, Wisconsin. I don't think Ohio lets us post there because you have to be a member, but sometimes we've posted in the other associations around the Great Lakes. But again, most of the traction we get is just our LinkedIn pages, is where we find we get the most interaction from candidates.
Got it.
Awesome, thank you.
Sorry, Kathy.
And then can I have a follow-up question?
Yeah, please.
I just success rate, like I'm hopeful that we're gonna find someone, but I wanted to ask about the company success rate. Like how many city administrators have you recruited and retained and had successfully employed, like, I don't know, a year,
Yeah,
5 years?
Nate, please.
In what cities?
So we've been at this now for, well, search was kind of by accident. That got added. We've been doing it for about 2 years now. And why we keep getting inquiries about doing searches, in my opinion, is the way we go about doing searches. That's why even with the request for a truncated scope of work, I still wanted to do a number of the steps that we do ahead of time because I want to know the community. What I don't want to do is try to get in and get out, which is the way recruiters make the most money. The quicker I can find the person, the quicker I can get the person and through the interviews done, and the quicker the contract's done, I'm done and I'm gone. So the searches we have done, Traverse City DDA, Ludington, Pentwater, DeWitt Township, Dundee, Saline. We're working on Hart right now, Gibraltar. We've done Mount Pleasant, finance director, Dundee finance director. I don't know if I said Dundee village
So these are
manager.
all actually, like you actually hired, like done the search and hired?
Oh, yeah, we've done the search, hired.
That's all, I was just curious.
As far as longevity though, if you don't mind me addressing.
Please.
One thing that we do offer, and this is something we can talk about later, but again, part of what we do with every search, at a minimum, you do our cheapest search, that candidate's gonna have 3 months of executive coaching. We don't give a long guarantee on our cheapest search because it's the relationship and how that gets started between the council and the manager and the council that's gonna set the tone for the entire relationship. So there's other things that we provide to try to make sure that tone gets set because the longevity question is a concern.
Yep.
ICMA Code of Ethics is 2 years at a minimum, which 2 years you can't build up a lot of momentum. But even in this world, in this environment that we're in right now, sometimes in some of these communities with some of these candidates, it's even hard to hit that 2-year minimum.
Thank you, Nate.
That answers.
And I just wanted to reiterate, if I was gonna add something, I mean, I think we all know we need a doer and a worker.
Oh, 100%.
Somebody that's not worried, about getting their hands dirty and can really dig in and put in the hours and the time, so. And then for council, I just love the idea of what they said they did in Saline about like a real life problem during the interview process. We do that at Ford and it's awesome, because you can tell pretty clearly, if they're gonna be able to manage a problem and see the word clear, make a good recommendation, communicate clearly. So that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other public comment? Well, council, we have a council meeting to get to in 8 minutes, so I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second by Cox. Clerk Tomasic, let me call roll whenever you're ready.
Alden?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Mulnar?
Yes.
Schumate?
Yes. Meeting adjourned. I'll see you in 8 minutes.
Mr.
We're doing, Rob.
How are you?
Good.
Doing draft work for the, commission.
Yeah, for the weed harvester? Yeah, yeah, so he's got, yeah, he just said it, I think he actually included council in Cox. Yeah, next week.
You had a good party down there Friday, huh?
Yeah.
It was nice of you.